Okay, so hi everyone. I'm really delighted and honored to be here, and I should thank the NSF and ACD for such a great opportunity that bring me here, and I can learn from each of you, and I can share also the results from this study that we conducted on behalf of the European Commission. And it was a very challenging one. I will try to really synthesize the key elements. And then we also conducted another study, a follow-up study, concentrating on the introduction of computational thinking in northern countries. So, first of all, I would like just to highlight the approach that we took for such challenging task. That was not only to run an extensive and thorough review of the literature, also looking into grassroots initiative, which plays such a great and important role in the field, but both at global and European level. But we also conducted a survey with ministries of education across Europe to get also insights and relevant policy documents related to introduction of computational thinking. But in the end, a very crucial role was played by the interviews with several experts and policymakers and teachers who are actively involved in the field globally, that really help us to make meaning of what was going on and what was actually emerging from the data. So the need from the European Commission to learn more about the state of the art across Europe was also dictated by the fact that across Europe, the European Commission has mainly a role to support and guide the member state policies in education, but the responsibility for the educational policy remain with the member states. So at European level, the Commission tried to promote and push hard initiatives that foster the integration of computational thinking. But as you can see, one of the major initiatives so far is focusing on Code Week, which involved a large number of schools all around Europe for 1 week, trying to engage in coding. And more recently, last year, the European Commission also launched this very huge initiative, the Digital Education Action Plan, that was mainly devoted to set up priorities for the member states about the next step and the future investment in education. And within this initiative, the Commission really stressed the role of and the importance of developing relevant digital skills or digital competence, which they define as the ability to critically use the digital technology. And within this perspective, they also included programming. So this just reflects the heterogeneity of the field and the understanding of computational thinking across member states in Europe. Yesterday, it was already mentioned the difficulties and the lack of a shared understanding or a shared definition of computational thinking. And in the European context, this is even more difficult through the language barrier and the difficulties, as highlighted by the experts and policymakers, to translate the concept and the real nature of computational thinking in local languages. This is why, for example, in Finland, they do not use computational thinking because it has no meaning translated in their own language, and they refer to algorithmic thinking. But that's not only a problem of the terminology they use, but the nature of the essential element that you want to include in the curriculum. So we ran this mapping, as you can see, it's very variegated. And mostly what emerged, there are two main trends emerging across the analysis in the member states for introducing computational thinking. The first one is related to computational thinking as one essential component of the 21st century skills. The other trend frames CT and programming as an essential element to boost employability in the technology sector. So with these two main rationale in mind, here you can see how they translated in the national curriculum. And as you can see again, based on these two rationale, member states are including computational thinking in the curriculum of compulsory education, mainly within digital competence. Digital competence is understood as a transversal competence, and this brings a lot of challenges. Another approach is to integrate computational thinking into mathematics, such as in Norway, which is currently delivering the new curriculum. Other member states has a long tradition in computer science, so they bring this tradition and they load down computational thinking teaching into primary school. Okay, when we were looking into computational thinking as part of the digital competence, there were two main elements that were emerging, not only describing computational thinking as thought process, but also as a mean to support creativity, creation, and also as a way to identify a set of skills that can transfer across the discipline. Here, is a very interesting definition taken from the Swedish curriculum, because they really make explicit the connection they see between computational thinking. Okay, they talk about programming, but for the reason I already mentioned, between computational thinking and digital competence. And as you can see, they see as an opportunity to include creativity, controlling, regulating, simulation, and democratic dimensions. So this is their definition of CT as part of the digital competence. And this is also reflected in the way in which they articulate the curriculum at national level, starting for the first grade, where they are prompting students to create their own artifact, and later on also trying to explore the social dimension. What does it mean to include computational thinking? What kind of impact it has on social studies, such as how digital media information is controlled and hidden programming. We also looked more in detail on teaching and learning approaches. We don't have time to get in detail on this, but there was really the need to understand and to identify multiple pathways to CT, and mostly to avoid over-reliance on coding. Finally, we also analyze in detail in-service teacher training, which still remains across the whole member states the most challenging part. And this here is a recent initiative launched last year by the UK government. This is actually one of the more important single investment on teacher education. The government put £84 million, which is around 105 million US dollar, to upskill computer science teachers. They identify a number of initiatives, I will not get, but this is a tentative to really try to respond to the main challenges that are emerging across Europe, also in Finland, regarding in-service teacher training. Designing large-scale initiatives to support the teacher in all subjects, to understand also in the teacher education what does it mean computational thinking as part of the 20th century skill, and also to support the school and allow teachers to really participate. So finally, we came up with a number of recommendations, but basically they could be summarized in 4 big elements. The first one is align computational thinking vision and practice. This is essential because there is a vision underlying curriculum defined at policy level, but still remain very challenging because of the nature of the national curriculum, which are very broad, general, to be understood at practice level. And this creates a lot of problem in real implementation and effective and authentic introduction of CT. And I think I have to stop. Okay, thank you very much.